Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me for this month's Facebook Live. Today, I am going to talk about expenses that self-employed businesses are allowed to claim on their self-assessment tax return. There are some expenses that you are allowed to legitimately enter into your accounts, but when you go to file your self-assessment tax return, they aren't allowed for tax purposes, like depreciation, entertainment of clients, and charity donations. There are other expenses that require special treatment before you even enter them into the accounts. I won't be covering every type of expense, as there are quite a lot, but I will touch on some of the most common ones. When you are entering your expenses into your accounts, one of the main things you need to think about is whether they are wholly and exclusively for business use. If it isn't, you may not be able to claim it on your self-assessment, or you can only claim for a portion of it. There are some expenses that, as long as they are for the business, they're simply entered into your accounts and at the end of the year included on your self-assessment. This includes things like advertising costs, stationery, business premise costs, and staff costs. There are other transactions that aren't as straightforward to deal with. There are very strict rules in regards to what you are allowed to claim when it comes to clothing, and this is where the wholly and exclusively rule comes in. A business can claim for uniforms, protective clothing for work, and actors and entertainers can claim for their costumes. However, if the clothes could be worn outside of work, or they don't have your logo on them, you cannot claim for them on your self-assessment. Many self-employed people run their businesses from home, which means they are using the electricity, the gas, telephone, and internet. HMRC allows self-employed businesses to claim for a portion of these costs. The easiest way to do this is by using the Simplified Expenses method that HMRC have developed. This is based on the number of hours you work from home each week, and you are then able to claim a set amount for each month. It is only able to be used by those who work more than 25 hours per month from home. This set amount only covers things like gas, electricity, mortgage, and council tax. If you work from home for less than 25 hours per month, you would need to calculate out the proportion of business use for your home. The Simplified Expenses method doesn't include claiming for the telephone or internet. HMRC have very strict rules about what you are allowed to claim for these expenses when you work from home. The only way to ensure that you can claim for telephone and internet use 100% is to have a completely separate phone line, mobile phone, and internet connection for the business. If you aren't able to do this, you will need to calculate out a reasonable percentage of business use that can be claimed. For the phones, you cannot claim for the rental of the line. You can only claim for the business-related calls. The one other area where there's a lot of confusion is related to travel. I won't go into much detail about this, as the Facebook Live for March was about claiming for business mileage. So I will put the link to that video in the comments. In a nutshell, you can only claim for the business portion of all car and van related expenses, which can be difficult to accurately calculate. HMRC allow you to claim a flat rate per mile, which covers the costs of fuel, repairs, insurance, etc. The current rate, as of the 6th of April 2020, is 45p per mile for cars and goods vehicles. You do need to ensure that you keep proper records which show the starting and ending mileage and location, the date, and the reason for your journey. If you travel somewhere for work on a plane, train, or using public transport, and part of the reason for the journey is for personal reasons, you can only claim for the part of the journey that relates directly to the business. Again, this is where the wholly and exclusively rule comes in. It's also important to note that you cannot claim for travel between your home and your main place of work. This is only a brief overview of self-employed expenses, but you can read more about them in my blog post, What Expenses Can I Claim as Self-Employed? I will put the link to that blog in the comments. If you would like further information on what expenses are allowable for a self-employed business, feel free to message me or put your questions in the comments. I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and don't forget to join me for my next Facebook Live in June.